here we are again.
And good evening,
We're live
everybody.
again.
How are you?
Good to see you all. Looking forward to another bank holiday with the Coronation here in the UK. Because we've got the Coronation coming up, and we're going to talk about all things royal. Talk about our predictions that we've made over the time, and just have a chat about these things today from a spiritual kind of perspective of two psychic mediums.
I'm afraid we couldn't make it to His Royal Highness.
No, personal invites, but we had other things on. We had to do this, and we had to say, didn't we? We couldn't be there. He was absolutely heartbroken, wasn't he? You know, but unfortunately. So, hello Craig and Jane. I love to listen to your chats. It's like having family in the UK with gratitude. Leslie Del Vale.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi there, Leslie. Good to see you then. Thank you.
Frank. Hi, Craig and Jane from Frank and Ava from Poole.
So get your questions ready, guys. All things about the royal family and what you think about some of the predictions we've made already and any thoughts about those type of things.
And Beatrice, kindness, greetings from where, Craig?
France, I guess, FR.
Oh.
I presume, unless it's some place in America. Ethel, that was my mother's name. Ethel Benny. Good evening, Craig and Jane. Happy new Eve of the Coronation. Okay, from warm West London. Yes, it's going to be very interesting. So you're there in London. Hopefully, you'll get to see them go by. Hello, Craig and Jane from Amy. Thank you for joining us, Jane.
Right. I have to put my glasses on. It's no good. Sonia Prema Kramer. Hello, both. Sairam, you both look lovely. We do, don't we, Craig?
We do. Notice we're
and
in the
so
royal
modest.
Sort of colours,
yes.
Blue and red and white, you know.
We're the UK flag,
we
living,
could tear
breathing
these clothes up
flag,
and make some flags.
Craig.
Yeah. Maria, I can't see properly today. I'm just wearing
Put your glasses
tired.
on. Hello from New Mexico, USA. Happy Coronation to all in the UK.
Yeah, watching from all over the world. Yeah,
that's great.
I think I don't know, but probably be pretty late. 12 o'clock. That's going to be possible.
It's going to be crowned at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock UK time.
Yes, and because it'll kick off quite early in the morning, and you're going to see all people arriving at 11 a.m.
Yeah. So it should be quite interesting. We've ordered some lobsters, haven't we, to have of us over the coronation period. Which is
strawberries and cream.
Strawberries and cream. We're going the whole hog. All our house is covered in ridiculous paraphernalia with pictures of Prince Charles, King Charles up and everything.
Who did you say that?
Well, I said Prince Charles, but I suppose he's Prince until he's crowned.
Absolutely.
He's king now. He's king already.
Marie, Margaret, you two are looking quite spiffy as usual from California.
Right, are we looking spiffy?
Spiffy.
Now, I'm a little bit suspect of that word because I always associate a spiff with a bit of a sort of.
Well, I wouldn't know that.
Do you want to buy some petrol during the war? Sort of thing. Yeah. So thoughts, Jane. Thoughts about because we want your questions today because we'd like you to lead us, and also we can open up to all sorts of questions as well. But the royal family type of things. I mean, I've got my list.
Well, I can remember, and I've still got my medal, 1953. From when Queen Elizabeth got crowned, and I got a special mug. It'd be worth a fortune now and everything. So I've still got that because I'd have been 3 years old then.
Would you? Yeah, I wouldn't have even been born.
Oh, weren't we lucky? Weren't we lucky? Weren't we lucky?
Yeah.
But the royal family, I think, is a great thing for the UK because I feel it brings tourists in. And it's really something that we do with all the parades and all the celebrations. I think we're the only country that is not quite like it, how we do things.
Yeah, I think as I've got older, I've got to like the royal family. I would have been kind of very anti it, I think, when I was a teenager. I'd have been very anti it. I think when you're young, you look at it and think, what's all this about? But then I think it does kind of unify the UK. You know, I mean, without it, I think it's much harder to hold the United Kingdom together. And I think it kind of unites a lot of the English-speaking people around the world too, in a good way.
Well, when you actually think the Queen, she's only about 21, 24, something like that, it's a great responsibility, isn't it? And we've got the new King Charles III that's always been waiting in the background, knowing that he's going to be king. And as he suddenly comes king, he's 73 going on 74 now. He's had to wait a long time, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, you think the Queen, she was a real uniting factor because, I mean, she was the most famous woman in the world throughout her life.
Yes.
Not just for a short period of time, like some celebrity that comes and goes.
And she really, what celebrity? But she really did serve the people, didn't she? And she was well loved, well respected. And I feel the same with King Charles III. I feel he's going to be a very good king.
Yeah, I mean, the Queen was very balanced, and I think that's what everybody loved about her. She was unflappable, you know, even when chaos was thrown at her, she was unflappable. I think the difference with Charles is this is the first king we've had for a long time who's actually a really intelligent person, who thinks. He's a bit of an intellectual. He thinks about the environment, obviously, but lots of things. He thinks about world issues. He thinks about religion and lots of stuff. And I think his reign is going to be marked by his thinking.
Isn't he? Defender of all faiths.
Well, this is something he's come up. It's controversial. I mean, back in 1953, when Elizabeth was crowned, the idea of someone being defender of all faiths would have been, you know, it was a monoculture here then. There's no mixed cultures in 1953. It wasn't until in the late 60s that, you know, it became less than a monoculture. But now the world's changed completely. And the question is, should the royalty change, or should the royalty remain as it is and be slow to change? Because that's also one of the things that are kind of important with the royalty, that it offers.
Well,
it doesn't jump with the times.
Well, Charles is saying that he's going to slim down the monarchy and chuck those out that's no use to serving the people. And I think he's going to be a very good king. But I feel the last king would definitely be William. That's what I feel.
Yeah, we've
definitely
said that
be
before.
The last
I
king.
think actually that slimming down the monarchy is going to be a problem for the monarchy. Princess Anne kind of commented about this, I think, because you get royals like Princess Anne, for example. She's very similar to the Queen in her
She's
her
more
manner.
like Queen Mary. She's like Queen Mary. She's a double.
Yeah, and an attitude, I believe.
Yeah, and
similar.
she's down to earth, very earthly, and she didn't want her children to have titles. She wanted them to have an ordinary life as possible. And I believe she's a very good mother, because I like Anne. I like her a lot.
I think, but
she says that
an extended monarchy is good for that type of person.
Very good.
When you get the right type of people. Of course, we got the wrong type as well there. This is a question that, because we both predicted this and said this as well, haven't we? That you've predicted that William will be the last monarch, and will anything replace it? So, will there be? Okay, William has been monarch. He's the last monarch. How it ends could be open to thought, but what would come after that? What would the UK see? What in the future age? You think what's happening at the moment? We've had the internet, we've had multiculturalism, we've had England becoming part of the UK, rather, being part of Europe, and then not being part of Europe. All this happened in the Queen's reign. All these things, the massive changes in one reign.
Well, we know what's
Charles's reign's going to be shorter for lots of reasons, but also because of his age. William will live for quite a long time, I would have thought.
Well, I think the next 50 years is going to change, because we've got artificial intelligence that's happening already. We're going to have all these robots and everything like that. So history is going to suddenly still be history, but it's suddenly fade out, because the people is changing, the world is changing. So
yeah, but you think at the beginning of the Queen's reign, 1953 to now, the world is, the UK is completely different. We're even talking about the breakup of the UK. It would have been unthinkable right back then. The Queen came to power at a time, her coronation was a time just after the war. A young woman, I think she was just in 25 or so. She was
in her 20s.
20, so something like that. She was a young woman coming to as a symbol of new birth, new hope, rebuilding of Britain.
She was put in that predicament because her father died, because he would have been the king.
So she came as a young, hopeful to the world at a time just after the war. Now, what we have now is we have an older person of 75 or something he is, isn't he, Charles, coming at a time when the world is kind of a much more difficult time, and then we're going to move into once he's finished, there'll be probably a fairly young William coming to in his early 30s perhaps.
No, he's getting on for 40, Craig.
Is he 40?
He's
Is
getting
he?
on
So,
for that.
hang on,
Yeah.
okay, I'm way out with my working out here. So 40s, 50, comparatively young still. 50s, 70s. It won't be as long a reign as Queen. I'm just trying to put it in perspective in terms of Queen Elizabeth's reign, because Queen Elizabeth's reign was massively long when you think about it. But the world is changing faster and faster and faster with computers and things. So I think the world we're going to see after William is going to be a world of high technology, less perhaps nationalism, and the idea of being a united kingdom. And I think even after William is gone, I think there could be a break-up of the United Kingdom. But I see it merging into something much more
Right.
of a kind of a world
I think we've answered this for Frank, haven't
of
we?
English-speaking peoples.
I think we've answered Frank,
all right.
haven't we?
I'm not.
Yeah.
I have mentioned about it in my other videos
Okay.
anyway, about what I feel will happen.
Mark K, do you think Princess Diana will be around tomorrow for the King's coronation, and do you think she's watching over Harry and William? Well, we can't be 100% sure of that, can we? Because I think who will definitely be watching over the new King Charles III will be his late uncle, Lord Mountbatten, for sure, and the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. I'm absolutely positive of that. And perhaps many other kings and queens, going back even possibly the first Queen, even Henry VIII, Craig, which brings me to say we got a most interesting story to mention about Henry VIII, haven't we, in Anne Boleyn?
Yeah, we're going to show later on a little bit in the show some clips from another little ghost hunt thing from the past that we did about Anne Boleyn. So that'll be coming up shortly. Yeah, I do definitely. I agree entirely with Jane there, because I feel Mountbatten was the mentor for King Charles, really, and his spirit, I think, is close to him. And I feel that Charles, like I've said in my predictions, I feel Charles is quite depressed. Probably not at the moment, because this is a high point, but I think he does suffer from a hidden depression, and I feel that he would send his thoughts out to Mountbatten, actually. And when Mountbatten was torn out of his life, I think it was a most momentous point in his life,
He
actually,
got blown up,
even more so when Diana died. And he would be there. And like Jane says, imagine what that place is like, all the kings and queens of old. I mean, the ceremonies that we see here in the UK with the coronation go right the way back before William the Conqueror. There's still traditions that are held that you'll see as part of the coronation that are way before William the Conqueror. And even go back to biblical times, some of the things that happen with the anointment and things like this. These are all biblical ideas. So it's a fascinating connection with history. And I'm definitely, Diana, I'm sure, would be there too. You wouldn't keep any of them away, would you?
Right, Agility Bits question. I love Prince Philip. I wonder if he will be there in spirit tomorrow, and I wonder if Charles will sense his presence. And he thought, well, I should imagine Charles' thoughts would be very much focused on his mother, what his mother represented for the country and to the world. And he very much would want to honour his mother, and I'm sure his mother would be very proud of him. And I'm sure that Prince Philip would, though he was a bit hard on him in life, but I think that was because of his upbringing, because he had an unusual upbringing, Prince Philip, and he's quite hard on the new King Charles, but that's made him who he is.
I think it's quite interesting. This raises some interesting thoughts, really, doesn't it, about when we watch that coronation. What would it be like to watch it and think, now what is Charles thinking at this moment, and what is he thinking at this moment? Because just like we've kind of questioning here, he must think about his place in history. Here he is wearing the crown of, was Edward the Confessor's crown, I think they wear this time, isn't it, or something like that.
It's a special diamond,
and he's wearing the crown that is so ancient, sitting in thrones that are ancient, where ancient kings have sat and had this same moment of ceremony. And Charles is knowledgeable, very knowledgeable about history, and has researched and knows all about the previous coronations, right the way back through history. And it must be a very, very poignant moment to be the person at the centre of that. You imagine what it would be like to be Charles, to actually be there at that moment of this crowning moment that is kind of very special, because it's made, they will cover him up and they will anoint him with oil, just as the way, the idea that the Messiah means anointed with oil. It's kind of almost got a religious level to it that's akin with the Old Testament and the New Testament there. Be anointed with oil. So it must be a fascinating thing, and he must think of all those who have been around him he loves. There must be a very strong sense of connection with the spirit world. There must be a very powerful feeling for him.
And I think people will see a new side of him, and he'll be well loved. And I feel that there's going to be a highly spiritual connection, and I feel that's coming from the higher realms that's going to connect with him.
Yeah, I think Charles will be a pretty good king.
I do.
Because I think he does have good values. I think he's got to watch getting too wokey, I think, because he doesn't want to try to out-woke the king and queen of woke. He needs to still, I feel, be his own man, not think, because Harry and Meghan are doing all this sort of over-inclusiveness. Still be who you are, I think, is important for him. But he does naturally want to be inclusive, particularly with religion, and particularly with the fact that he's made very close connections with the Saudi royal family, for example, and I think this inclusiveness is going to be very much part of his role. But I still think he has to also remain the traditionalist. I think he'll do that. I think he'll be able to bridge those two worlds.
And Matt's saying King Charles is a Scorpio and Moon in Taurus and Leo rising. Well, Scorpios are quite passionate people, and very much, you don't want to get on the wrong side of a Scorpio because they can have anger. Though, do you remember the fountain pen? He got quite cross because the ink was leaking and things like that.
He's
he likes
also,
perfection.
Astrologically, this is not the best of times. If you were in India, you would definitely not have any major event like a wedding or anything like that close to or nearly on an eclipse. Now this has linked with an eclipse, so that's a pretty bad sign astrologically to have that. 2 days ago, I think there was the eclipse.
Is the eclipse going into Libra?
But I'm not an astrologer, so I don't know all the details.
Libra. Great.
But I know that some of the astrologers have spoken about this. So I think it is quite interesting, his astrology at the moment. And I did say in one of my other videos some of the concerns about the astrology. But but Charles is a Scorpio. They have a long memory, Scorpios, don't they? They have a long memory-o. Scorpios. And
Craigio.
And so I think when it comes to things like Harry, he's letting him in now at the moment, and he's giving him. I think Harry's got an audacity to come here at all. Frankly.
Yes, but you've got to remember, Craig, it's still his son.
Yeah, and
whatever he's done, it's
still his child. But I think it's
child.
pretty noble of Charles to allow him.
Yes, but it's still his
very
son.
Noble. But I don't think Charles forgives long term. That's what I'm saying as a Scorpio. All right, I'll read it then. I wonder if there will be any tension with Harry appearing on the balcony with his family, especially when it comes to coverage from the media.
Well,
go on then.
I believe that Harry's not going to stay very long. He's going to see his father crowned, and then he's going back because it's Archie's birthday, 4th birthday. So he probably won't be on the balcony. I'll be very surprised as he is.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the arrangement is.
I think he's going to actually be in when the service.
Yeah, I kind of assumed he'd be on the balcony, but that might not be the case. And like I said, I think he's got a bit of an audacity coming here in the first place with it. And it's important from his point of view that he's here, because he needs to have something to moan about. Because if he's not, his whole sales pitch is that I'm part of the royal family. If he didn't come here, it's not going to be so easy to sell the next lot of Netflix or the next lot of books. And frankly, I think he's got a cheek to come here at all, because he's rubbished his family. You imagine if it happened in your own family. Someone had rubbished you to the point with all the newspapers around the world had torn you to pieces, had said every intimate detail about what goes on in the family life and made money out of it. You wouldn't want him back in your life, would you? You'd say, no thanks, Christmas? No, you can't come.
Yes, but you've got to remember it's his son, and Charles is trying to keep dignity.
Charles is being pretty noble. But I think, I think if Harry will come and go quick, because he's likely to be booed. I feel if they give him a chance to get close enough to the public.
He's already
to
stated in the papers, Craig, he's not staying very long.
That's why I say it's why he has to leave quickly, because it wouldn't take a lot to have the cameras booing him, because I think people would feel resentment to him for what all he's done, particularly at a time when people feel sort of on a high about the idea of this is our nation, this is our world, this is our monarchy. It's symbolic. It's all symbolism. This is why the power of the crown is so important, because it's symbolic. It's symbolic of the nation.
Matt's saying, do you think King Charles and Harry will have a talk to patch things up? I think the new King Charles will be far too busy to get involved in anything. Remember, he's insulted the new Queen, hasn't he? Him and Meghan Markle have insulted Camilla.
Yeah, and I think Charles wants to patch it up. I think because he's, like I say, it's pretty noble of him, really, to allow him even near the court. And I think he would, on the quiet, try to say a word or two. But you're not going to patch things up because, we've got the Meghan Markle media machine in the background there, gathering
Craig,
all the next stuff for the next book and the rest.
I believe she's writing a new book to come out too.
That's right. This is all fodder this is all grist for the mill. This is all stuff that we can throw in and say, we need this exposure. We must have this connection. We mustn't be seen as a pariah. We must be seen as intimate members of the royal family that can reveal all sorts of nasty stuff again. So I think I don't know if my opinions are the same as what you feel. Am I being too harsh here? What do you guys think? Do you think that they have a cheat coming here? Do you think that Charles is pretty good with this, or do we remember what happened with Diana and all that, and do we look at it and think, well, Charles has been a pretty bad record himself, So you think Francis says King Charles will be in the throne some months only, and then he will be changed.
Why will he be changed?
Well, she's saying, Franco, male name, is it? Franco's saying that this is it. It's only going to be there a couple of months, and then they're going to move him. I don't think that would be a possibility, actually.
No.
And but I do think Charles will have a short reign, and I've said that both illness and depression ultimately makes him decide I'm going to step back earlier than I need to.
Craig, he had a compulsive cleaning disorder, because he noticed everything. You look at his hands, and I made a prediction, they're all beautifully manicured. I put it on my channel. So therefore he's got problems in the hand with his circulation as well, which leads that he has heart problems. Yeah,
and he's like you say, he's very, very. They call him a bit fussy, don't they? When William and Harry, before all this horrible stuff happened, they used to joke about him and say, "Oh, he's so fussy with his toothbrush and everything like this, and everything's got to be just right." And I think you're right, a bit OCD.
Well, it's been well known he's been taking his own toilet seat when he travelled,
which is a sign of anxiety.
Well,
isn't
it's
it?
OCD
really?
he's got, so
it's a sign of anxiety.
It's perfection he wants.
Harry can take a hike.
Do you want to go with him, Craig?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad.
I think that does reflect a lot of what people feel, I mean, and put your comments after, when the show's finished, what do you think? What do you think about the royal family? And do you think the royal family is still relevant? Because a lot of younger people are saying, well, why have we got this royal family? I mean, I used to say the same thing, as a teenager. Why do we have to stand up in the cinema and after we watched the film The Battle of Britain? Because that wasn't me. That was another generation.
Yeah.
Harry is damned if he does, and damned if he doesn't.
Well, that's very true.
Well.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But then he's made a rod for his own back, hasn't he? Really.
Yeah. I suppose he's put himself in that predicament, hasn't he? Really.
He didn't have to write books. He didn't have to.
Yeah, because if he didn't come, we'd all be saying coward. He didn't come, wouldn't we? We'd be saying, and if he does come, we say traitor. So I suppose you're right. You're right, Pauline. He can't win. What did the rest of you think? Any other thoughts on this? Is there any salvation for Harry and Meghan? I can't see it ever happening. And and we've said this, Jane and I have said this, all I see is it imploding ultimately. Once they run out of all this fodder and all this stuff, you know, and the money stuff, well, they'll have plenty of money, it won't dry up. But then, I think that once the momentum goes out of it, they start looking at themselves. And I think ultimately the two of them will sort of come to blows themselves, actually. They'd implode, because I think Harry and Meghan will ultimately divorce. And Harry will become a very
broken man. He will.
Yeah,
it's such a shame with his children.
And it is sad, and it's damaging. It's damaging all for what I think is the self-interest of Meghan's own ego. She's one of the biggest egotists that have walked the planet, and it's you know, and it's awful. And I think this whole business that she can't come because of the birthday party, and I said that would happen. I don't know. We both said it here as well, I think, didn't we?
Well,
that the excuse would be made because of the birthday party, and no, it happened.
Well, I believe that Bella says, do you think a cigarette break will be written into the... Well, I believe one of the conditions when he married her, that she had to give up smoking because she had rather lots of lines and everything, because I believe she swear like a trooper, tell filthy jokes, smoked, but at the same time I believe that I will say that she has stood by Charles. They do seem suited for one another, and he does seem much more sort of happy with her. I think you are going to find some people be for her and some people will be against her, because they haven't forgotten what happened with Diana.
I think I love the quips. I think that's so funny, because I mean, yeah, okay, we're all in this royals coronation mode at the moment, and like I say, it's the power of symbolism, isn't it? This symbolism of the nation and so forth. So this is why everybody rises to the occasion, because you know this is symbolism, and yet we look at the actual characters on the stage, as it were, you know, the characters, the players upon the stage who are playing this role of the kings and queens, almost like a Shakespearean role. And we actually look at the real characters and we think, my God, look at them all, you know, Camilla, Andrew, Charles, Harry. Oh God, there's quite a lot of mess amongst it all as well, if we're honest. But then we look at it, these are symbols. This is symbols of the nation. This is why this is the power of pageant and the power of ritual that actually can be a very binding force. So you're looking at your watch, Jane, thinking, shall we put on the little interlude now? Which might not be a bad idea, right? So I'm just going to put on now a little video. We've got some other ones coming up, but Jane and I did one. We were going to do one about Lawrence of Arabia today, but we thought, well, actually, the one we're going to do is one. It's something a little bit about the spirit of Anne Boleyn. Now, if I can just get my video, there we go, and I click on that, and hopefully we can get the nice picture off the screen as we do it. So open.
We all love a good ghost story, don't we? And none better than those ghosts that go around carrying their head underneath their arm. Beheaded ghosts, such as the ghost of Anne Boleyn. Now, Jane and I had a nice day out at a beautiful castle called Haver Castle in Kent. It's not that far from London if you're visiting from America. And beautiful place, lovely grounds, wonderful magical castle that dates right back to the time of Henry VIII, and of course to the second wife of Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn, who was beheaded in 1536. And this was the childhood home of Anne Boleyn and the place where she first met Henry VIII. You'll remember the story Anne of the Thousand Days with Richard Burton. You know, that wonderful movie that told the story of Anne Boleyn. And it was there that they met. I believe it was next to the old oak tree in Haver Castle. And at Haver Castle, there's supposed to be many ghosts haunting the place. And in particular, of course, the ghost of Anne Boleyn and her sister as well, Mary. And also Anna Cleves, I believe, lived there for a while as well. So this place is kind of steeped in history, you know, and nothing more mysterious, of course, than the ghost of someone who's had their head chopped off. Anne's ghost is actually supposed to appear there around the time of Christmas. Even though Henry VIII was married to Catherine of Aragon and had an affair with Anne Boleyn's sister Mary, he still courted Anne Boleyn at this place. And her ghost is supposed to particularly haunt the bedroom. There's been a lot of sightings there, and attached to it there is a little chamber which is the area which she had as her own personal chapel. And in that personal chapel, which was restored later by the Astors that used to own the house, in that personal chapel she is supposed to sometimes be seen. It's certainly a strange place. When Jane and I walked through, of course there's lots of tourists there, but at the same time you can still get a feeling of this eeriness of the place. The paintings in particular seem to echo the past. You can look at the faces, and the paintings are comparatively fresh, so you can almost feel as if some of them look like they've painted only yesterday, and still see the faces of those people staring at us from the past. Jane and I have been following some of the ghost stories of places associated with Henry VIII and his 6 wives. Now, inevitably, we end up at one of the most important haunted places on Earth, which is the Hampton Court Palace. And there's believed to be about 11 ghosts that haunt this place. But let me just tell you a little bit about Hampton Court, and also I'm going to tell you at the end a little bit about some of my views about evil ghosts and what they mean, because people have asked about this a lot in the comments, and I think it needs explaining a bit. Okay, let's tell you a little bit about Hampton Court. Hampton Court Palace, to be precise. And it's near London. It's in Richmond upon Thames, and it was originally built in 1515 for Cardinal Thomas Wolsey. And he was a favourite of King Henry VIII. But in 1529, as one kind of Wolsey fell from power, Henry VIII, of course, grabbed the palace like he did with so much of England. And he took all the royal stuff, you know, Glastonbury burnt down and all the rest of it, if you follow your history. But Hampton Court was one of those places, was built for Wolsey, but taken over by Henry VIII. And together with the other one, which is at St James's Palace, is one of the only 2 surviving palaces out of the many that was owned by Henry VIII. So that's the main person there, and the ghosts of Henry VIII, of course, are supposed to, the wives particularly, are supposed to haunt this place. But I'll tell you about that in a minute. But in the next century, King William III did a massive rebuild and expanded the whole thing, and it destroyed a lot of what was originally there. Much of the Tudor palace that was intended originally to rival Versailles, the work for that was ceased in 1694, but left the palace in sort of 2 parts really, and very different styles. One was sort of like in the old Tudor style, and the other was in the Baroque style. So we got 2 lots of style of architecture there. So it is an absolutely fascinating place to look around, and it's absolutely steeped in the vibrations of history. And I'm going to tell you now a little bit about some of the ghosts that are supposed to haunt this place. Now, like I said, there's supposed to be at least 11 ghosts that are supposed to haunt Hampton Court. The most famous is Catherine Howard. Now, she's believed to frequent the haunted gallery, where she was dragged back, apparently screaming to her rooms while under house arrest. And she was, of course, accused of committing adultery by Henry VIII. And her ghost is now called the Screaming Lady, Others are there too. Anne Boleyn, we noticed, was mentioned a number of times in areas of Hampton Court as well. But there's another one, actually, less known perhaps. There's a woman called Sybil Penn, Sybil Pem, and she's this is supposed to be sightings of Dame Sybil Pem. She was a servant to 4 Tudor monarchs, and she began around about 1829 when the church at nearby Hampton was rebuilt and her impressive tomb was moved. And since then, Sybil's ghost is known as the Grey Lady of Hampton Court Palace. The moving of the tomb is supposed to have awoken her spirit and caused her to haunt the place. And then there is, of course, is Skeletor. This has recently been seen, a great name that, isn't it? Skeletor. And it's the name that was given to a ghostly figure that appeared on CCTV cameras at Hampton Court Palace in October 2003. I'll put a picture up of it for you here. Now, if we can look at that, and we can, of course, question whether that is a ghost or not, but whatever. But I think some of the most interesting stories at Hampton Court are the ones told by the people that work there.
But through here is the bathroom that Caroline used, and there have been several occasions when we've smelt perfume or else rose-scented bath water or something similar. And I was in here not long ago, but it happened again. There were 2 women with me. It does tend to happen to women more often than men for some reason. And they smelt it and they said, "Wow, that's frankincense." That's not been used since 1737. There's no reason for it to be there, but it does happen. So I can't say that I've seen a ghost, but I have smelled one.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I've had a couple.
But women do pick up these things much more readily. I've not forgotten the Canadian girl who wouldn't walk into a Cumberland. She was convinced there was something evil. Just walked in the door and just stopped dead and said, "Are there evil spirits here?" I went into full charming Warder mode because I suspected a panic might be on the cards. I said, "Well, Henry VIII used to live here, Duke of Cumberland, etc." She saw through it and said, "No, there's something evil." And nothing I could say would get her to walk into that room.
Wow.
Those Canadians.
Yeah, what are
Well, we don't want to slag them off. They provided a nice new floor for the kings. But then no lack of pine trees there.
Well, there you go.
That was interesting,
I
wasn't
hope
it?
people enjoy that. I
I've
mean,
got all about that.
Let us know if you like this format where we introduce a little 10-minute interlude like that. We kept it kind of in line, and like someone asked there, didn't you earlier on? Will the spirits of the kings and queens of old be at the coronation?
Oh, that's nice.
Well, you know, there's your answer. They do seem to hang around these places.
Well, Ethel enjoyed it. She really
that's
enjoyed
good.
the short videos and learned someone new each time. Oh, thank you.
Oh, great.
Lisa
yeah.
said thank you.
That's
That's good, Craig. Very
you like
good.
it. Yeah, well, excellent.
Oh, well done.
Because
They
we'll keep
loved
going
it.
with these type of things
Yeah.
if you enjoy these little bits. We like to try to make the show as interesting as possible. And also, I was saying to Jane, I think they were ravens that there was a shot there of.
They had blue eyes.
There's a myth or story or superstition that says that when the ravens will leave the Tower of London, that will be the time of the ending of the monarchy. You know. So the England's monarchy will fail. So that's an interesting one.
Yes.
That could perhaps that's the old superstition, and so on. Did you feel any vibe? Because I did when went to Chillingham Castle. It's one of the
we
most
did feel
haunted
things,
in
didn't
England.
we?
It was spooky.
We'll have to do the Tower of London next.
I don't know where Chillingham Castle is. Chillingham, I presume. I don't know where Chillingham is. But we're going to do some more like that, and I think it adds an interesting sort of element.
And then when we go to Italy, we go down to the catacombs. There's all these priests that are still preserved, and all the bodies down there.
We're
We
going
can do that.
We'll
And there's-
revisit some of the places
Yeah.
we've been, actually.
And there's a little girl that's been preserved, about 3 years old, that's in a glass coffin. It'd be interesting to do all these things.
Yeah, this is an interesting thought, actually. I've often wondered that myself, actually. Is Meghan Anne Boleyn seeking vengeance upon us?
Who knows?
I mean, you think about what happened. I mean, there was so much wrongdoing throughout the whole history of all the royal families of the world, you know. And if you were the spirit of Anne Boleyn, wouldn't you want to come back and reap revenge, you know, and come back in the form of Meghan or Diana or all those that have shaken the traditionists by the foundations? I think it's... Yeah,
That's a very good
could
question.
Harry be Henry VIII reincarnated? It's an interesting thought. We can't tell, can we? We don't know. But I think there certainly are some very great similarities between both those characters. And and Harry and Henry, yeah, I think there is, isn't
Well,
there?
he's got
There's a lot.
same colouring hair, isn't he?
Yeah. He's got
Ginger
because
hair.
I think Henry didn't have ginger hair.
Yes, he did.
Did he?
Yes, he
In the
did,
photographs,
yes.
there he didn't.
Yes,
In
yes,
the
he
image.
has. If you go look at the oil painting, he's got red hair.
Okay. Anne Boleyn, I know she's very
Archie's got-
pale face
Archie's
in those
got red hair
in
as
those
well,
images.
and his children's got red hair.
Yeah.
Archie has.
Yeah, usually a sign the connections with the Irish and the Scots, isn't it?
Yes,
With the red and the
Celtic.
Celtic side of the
Yeah.
royal family, because the Scottish kings are very much also entwined in the mythology of the royal family.
You're going to thank
too.
your patrons?
Yeah, so we're going to say thanks to the patrons, because you see at the bottom of the screen, I've got to update some of these soon too, some of you new ones that have joined. The patrons are running along the bottom of the screen, some of the patrons anyway, and because we've got a lot of patrons now helping us to keep all this going, because this studio here, to keep this show going, costs quite a lot. Yes, we could do it at home, but it's terribly difficult to do it once a week. With all the setting up, with all the materials we got, multiple cameras, and being able to do little videos, all that sort of thing requires a bit of help. And that's where the patrons are coming in, helping us. So you can have a look in the description to this video. Please do consider being a patron. It's an enormous help. It takes a lot of pressure off us when we've got people helping us with a small donation each month, all of which goes to this. We don't take a penny from that. A lot of these YouTube channels have patrons which takes money for themselves, that helps them. Now this only goes to the both the work we do here with the studio and keeping it all going, and also working towards hopefully having a centre soon, which we're working towards as well, and also a little bit of charitable work goes, which you'd have heard about and seen on our channels from time to time. So be a patron. It helps a great deal, and thank you to all those that are patrons and are helping this channel to move forward so much. So where do we go from here? Let's have a few more questions if we've got some. We can always broaden it as well. We don't always have to keep talking about the royal family. We've still got 15 minutes, so we can still get a few more questions from you guys. So don't forget, put your questions in, because Matt can't click on questions if the questions aren't there.
Oh, here, Kathy. When Camilla becomes queen, do you think her children have a claim to the throne if Charles dies? I shouldn't think so. Would you?
That is very specific, and I
Yeah.
have no idea how
No,
that
I
works.
think so.
Because it's whoever's in line for the throne. I do feel that there's going to be some form of accident at some point in the period of time of Charles's reign. Now, whether this results in some deaths or changes the lineage to the throne, I don't know. But it's not many jumps actually until Harry is perhaps in line and so forth. But the more children that are born, the more close that the lineage works. I don't know how it works with Camilla. I've got no idea. You need to speak to a royal historian and expert about that. Question, Craig, will the monarchy end because something will happen to William? You predicted something bad will happen. Will the monarchy end because Harry takes over? Thank you. No, I don't think Harry takes over. He wouldn't take over. It would be William's children that would take over ahead of Harry anyway. I think there's a threat. I picked up something that I felt there'd be a threat of some sort to William's and his family's life in some transport accident of some sort. But I will add that I feel that they survived it. They weren't injured or anything. It was just a worrying thing. Something went wrong with something, I see, ahead. But I feel William will see to the end of his reign. He will not die young or anything through some tragedy like Diana did. So that won't happen. Harry ultimately, there's a lot of years ahead of us. Harry will ultimately fade from the stage. The damage he's doing now will not last. They're running out of bullets. They're running out of ammunition. That's why he's here at the moment, really, in some ways, because we need more fuel to keep our story going. So Harry will fade from the scene very much and become a bit of a shadowy, sad sort of figure, I believe, in due course. Do you feel similar, Jane, to that?
Yes, I do. I feel Harry, I see as a broken young man later on. And I feel that it's going to all end in tragedy, I'm afraid. Christina, Do you see any disruptions on the day? There was talk of horses being targeted. Well, I think security would be very, very on high alert, because there are always one idiot that wants to do something or destroy something. So, they'll be on high alert. I don't feel any tragedies, though.
Yeah, I think there will be disruptions, but we probably won't see it. There'll be, like Jane says, there's always one or two people. I don't know how some of the environmentalists and things have been wanting to target it. I mean, there's King Charles, who was one of the greatest spokesmen for the environment and the need to look after the environment, and then they want to disrupt it. So there's all sorts of crazy people out there sticking themselves to pavements and things. And like you say, targeting the horses. They've been very concerned about all these things. And there was always the danger of the lone gunman, isn't there? Do you remember that time when that young person got right close to the Queen and fired some blanks? And if those had been real bullets, the whole history of the royalty would have changed dramatically on that day. It wasn't that long ago. Do you remember it? When
And Princess Anne.
Yeah, and Princess Anne as well, Jane, you're right. So there's always this danger of a possible assassination. I mean, there was these Nadi predictions that were said about an assassination that I read out recently on my channel earlier on. And that's happened, hasn't it? Because we had the assassination attempt on Putin, it appears, if that's what it meant. I don't know. So there's always the danger of that. Fingers crossed, nothing will happen. I don't think it will. I haven't seen that in my thoughts. Have you, Jane? I've not seen something like that.
No.
But there's always the chance, of course, isn't there?
There's always
the
idiots.
Chance. Yeah, there's always the crazy idiots. Look at people like John Lennon,
that's right.
fired by, a nutcase.
I've heard that. I don't believe. Well,
Let me read it
cursed.
out. I've heard the Kur-Daim, I can't remember how to pronounce it, is curse. So it could be causing all these family problems. Maybe time to return it to the temple it originally
came from India, didn't it?
It was a Shiva. It was it was taken from a Shiva statue, the destroyer, the beginner, wipes away the past to bring in the new. I think they'll probably have to do something with that diamond. There's a lot of calls for the returns of these things, such as like the Elgin marbles, for example, as well. But of course, who owned it? Because before it was owned in India, there's claims that it was owned elsewhere. I think it was Africans or something. No, it came to Victoria after. The British took it. It don't belong to us.
Queen Victoria.
But then they also say it don't belong to the Indians. So maybe it should be shared or something like that with these things. And they have taken it out of the crown. They've taken it out of the crown because of controversy with it. So there is said to be a bit of a curse with the diamond. Often it does seem diamonds often have carried a lot of bad luck with them in the past.
Not for me, they don't.
No,
Not for me.
but they're very powerful because they carry vibration. They're one of the most powerful vibrations. The Nadi oracles said to me, didn't they? They said in the Nadi oracle, said, Craig, it's important that you have diamond near you. It's important for your power, for your health, that you have diamonds. Now, I'm not going to wear diamonds. So the Nadi reader said to me, then you must give diamonds to your wife because she's nearby. I thought, I'm not going to use this service ever again. Take those leaves away. But it's funny. But diamonds, they are very powerful things. So maybe Mystique Rebel, you've got something there. But I don't think it would, it could be, maybe it creates problems for the family. I don't think so personally. But I think we do have to sometimes think about some of the stuff that was taken from other cultures without their permission, or at least get permission from those cultures to be able to exhibit it. And maybe we should start thinking that certain items should be owned by the world. Should the Elgin marbles be owned by Britain or Greece? Should they not be world owned? There should be some perhaps form of saying that certain things shouldn't be owned by people or by countries. Why should somebody own a Van Gogh painting and nobody else sees it? These are things that belong to the world, and including certain places we should say, like we have World Heritage sites, but they should be
Shared.
said that this is for everybody, this is for future generations, for humanity as a whole, so that we can learn from our history and learn from the great arts of the past, and wonder at the things like the wonderful diamonds and things like that, and the jewellery of the past. These are things for all mankind, and go beyond any ownership of any person or nation. There we go.
Hi, Craig and Jane. Can you do the Nadi reading and omit the death part? Can't do that.
The Nadis would, as you know, the Nadis are now available on my site, because I found a service that I'm very happy with, and I've been using it myself, and I'm going to give you some of the predictions from that Nadi later on for the world predictions. When the Nadi tells you your death date, it's flexible, funnily enough, because the first date I was given was changed when I did the remedies, and once you do the remedies, the date shifts. So I don't think the Nadi does really give you the death date in quite the way it appears, because the more you do of spiritual work, the more you do with the pujas, the more you do with the mantras, the more you engage in a good way with the world, the death date shifts. Because according to the Nadi, if you've got spiritual work to do, then you live longer. So let's all do lots of spiritual work, and we'll live for a long, long time. And my Nadi now says that I can choose the time of my death. So that became very strange. So I would suggest that you could perhaps ask if it's submitted, if you're really worried about it and it's something that concerns you. But really, there's nothing to worry about with it, because we're all going to die one day, and the Nadi usually gives you ways to extend it so that you can live longer.
DD. Question. If the monarchy goes away after William, what will happen with the Wells children? What will they do in life?
Well, there'll still be celebrities, like Harry and Meghan have been celebrities, because
they still live,
once you've got the royal blood in you and you've got the royal lineage there, they're still important, because there's still kings and queens who might not sort of reign anymore. Like there's the king and queen of, there's royal families in Norway, there's royal families in Spain, there's royal families lineages still in France, I believe, I don't know, in Denmark and so forth, and all over. And those people are still kind of revered. They might not have the great money that we pour into it here, like we do here in the UK, and the huge estates. They might be a little bit poorer, but they still have a certain dignity. And I think anybody that has come from a lineage like that will still carry the burden of history with them. It's inevitable. So that's what they would be like, a little bit. Once you're marked with the royal lineage, then it's there forever. In fact, all of us, they say, carry some genes from Genghis Khan. All of us have a little bit of royal blood in us, because the way things work in the world is that that bloodline extends out pretty much to all humans in a strange sort of way. And that, like I say, the Genghis Khan thing, you look it up on the web, that we have, most of us carry actual genes that can be traced to Genghis Khan.
Well, when
himself.
you think of Henry VIII and you think of Harry, both of them have got tempers on them, haven't they?
Oh, you're going back to the idea of
Harry's got a lot of temper in him. He's got a lot of soul searching to do. He's a very angry man.
Henry VIII was a very angry man.
Yeah,
too,
both of them
wasn't he,
angry.
with all of it? Yeah.
Very angry people, and it's burning energy that they've got there that needs to release, and it's like all tension. It's all blocked, and that's where his anger is reflected on those nearest to him and his family. Not, he's very angry at Camilla. He's very angry at his father, and because putting fuel to the fire is Meghan instigating all this and that. And
so he could have chopped her head off in a past life then.
And her feet.
He could.
So he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. It's a strange thing to think they had that power.
Yeah.
You know, you think what the royalty have now, their power is zero, really. They can't make political decisions or anything, really. But they can be there as an advisor, and that's how Queen Elizabeth, who saw so many prime ministers right the way back from Marlborough, wasn't it? Was the
Well,
first
the
one.
Queen Elizabeth is working right up to the day
Yeah.
before she died. Didn't
That's
she?
right, and so,
Amazing
so it
woman.
has a tremendous overview, and a lot of people around the world admire her. I mean, Trump was recently here in Scotland, and I was watching his interviews with Nigel Farage on that UK news channel, and he was quite an admirer, you know, because his mother was Scottish, and he loved the idea of the royal family. And that's just one politician. All around the world, there has always been a great admiration for the royal family. I think personally, I think Biden has been a bit of a mean-spirited. Actually, he came to Ireland because he believes he was Irish. Actually, he's got an English name. Biden's an English name, not a Irish one. And his roots actually came from Chichester. You remember I did that show about Chichester around Chichester. His roots actually came from Chichester, just down the road from us.
Well, it says it all.
So and he wants to be Irish because he gets more votes. But generally, most world leaders have quite an admiration for the monarchy because it's a symbol. And it's a kind of a symbol that reunites not just the people of the United Kingdom, but it also unites what was the empire and became the Commonwealth, and unites us with common ideas, really. And that's why I think, in many respects, you know, if some of the Commonwealth was to leave, if Jamaica's talking about leaving, even now they've started bleating about it, which I think is a shame. Because I think it unites an idea, a concept that could become even more powerful, really. Because I see in the future, like I was starting to say earlier on, I think there will be a kind of a English-speaking peoples of the world will come together more in the future, and maybe they will need a symbol of some sort equivalent to a monarchy, something that unites us. Something that is.
They need a Jane in their life.
They need Craig and Jane. That's true. They need a Craig and Jane, who we should unite the world and under the stewardship of our great wisdom.
You said it.
And with that, you know, with that daftness, we're coming to the end of the show. So,
agility bits. Henry VIII was seriously injured in a jostling match. It's thought he had a brain injury, and it changed his personality. He was said to be a kind, loving man before the accident. He certainly was, where the women was concerned, a loving man.
Henry V was.
Yeah, it wasn't the eighth.
Henry VIII. I'm not sure about that, but I know you're very knowledgeable, Pat. So. I'm not sure. Well, but anyway, we're coming to the end of the show now, and I just would like to say at the end, don't again forget, become a patron. Have another think about it if you can, because if you just become a patron, even on the small level, it helps. And of course, we also, you know, I try to interact with the patrons and try to post bits and pieces up on the Patreon pages, and also give you a chance to, you know, ask me questions there as well. So, you know, have a look in the description, please, below of this video, and consider becoming a patron and helping Jane and I keep all this going, keep the energy going. We give this all for nothing because we enjoy doing this. We like reaching out to you, sharing our ideas, and making a show for you.
Now, Craig.
So we'll say a few goodbyes to people.
Thank you both. Have a lovely Coronation weekend. Thank you. And you, Christina. Anybody else want to wish us well?
We're going to say goodbye to them then.
So, lovely parts of England have not seen. Thanks all. Thank you, Sally.
These are our goodbyes.
Yes, musical. Love your trips. Very interesting. Yeah, we enjoy it.
Okay, we are going to say goodbye and thank you for joining the show. Don't forget, every Friday. See you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.